Hey guys, it's Jackson here from Titanic Games, and today we're going to continue on with our RPG game tutorial series, and we're going to try to finish up our equipment system. So with that, let's get started. Now, first thing we're going to do is we're going to go into our character, okay, and we are going to start completing these attach equipment and unattach equipment functions. So first thing that we'll do is we'll do the attach equipment. Okay, so we'll click this and go to inputs here and add a new input, and this will be called item info. Okay, and of course it'll be f item info, right? Then we'll also do that really quick for the unattach. So we'll add a new input, and it's already f item info, so we'll just call it item info. Okay, now the info to pass in to both of these, well, so this one, the attach equipment up here is going to be, we're going to drag off of the item info coming in from use item. Okay, and I just made a reroute node and then plug that in. Right, and now down here, right, we're going to take the item info coming in from unuse and plug that in. Okay, so next what we need to do is go into our attach equipment function, and basically we're going to take our item info, we're going to break it, and in the details panel we're going to get rid of everything except for the class and the slot. Okay, so we should just have item class and item slot. Now with the item slot, as we've done before, we'll do a switch on the slot type. Hook this up. Okay, and now basically based on whatever type it is, we are going to kind of spawn a corresponding type of equipment. Right, so we're going to need the class for this, so let's just get this up there so that we'll be able to use it. Just adding some reroute nodes. Okay, so now it's prepared to fire off wherever we need it. All right, now for all of these slots, we need to create a variable of type base item that will be for each of these item slots. So for example, we'll need to create a head item, a torso item, an arms item, etc. all the way down. So we'll do that really quick. I'm going to go to variables, create a new variable that we'll call head item. Change its type here to BP underscore base. Oops, not BO. Base item. Okay. So find our base item. Click the reference of it. Alright. Then we can go ahead and actually just duplicate that. And we'll call this one torso item. Duplicate again. Call it arms item. Duplicate again. And we will call this what is it? Excuse me. We'll call this legs item. Duplicate once more. Call it feet item. And I think you guys get the idea. So basically just do that for the last 5, and then I'll see you in a sec. Alright, so we're back, and I've just added the final 5 items. So you should have something like all of these, right? Head, torso, arms, legs, feet, primaries, and the secondaries in the amulet. Okay, so you should have one for each slot type that you have. Again, they're all of type base item. That's something important to make sure that you have. Okay, so next what we'll do is we'll look at actually spawning it and attaching it. All right, so how we'll do this is we are going to basically, we want to take our head item, we'll drag it way up here, we'll get it, and the first thing we want to do is check if it's valid. So we'll say is valid question mark. Okay, so if this is valid, or rather if it isn't valid, right, that means that we haven't spawned anything yet. So there's no item to kind of set this. So what we'll do is if it's not valid, we will say spawn, not spawn item, but spawn actor from class. Right, and this asks for a class, a spawn transform, and then some other stuff. So for the class, right, the reason we kept the class here from the item info is because we're going to take our class and plug it in. And if you recall, class is automatically being set in the base item, depending on whatever class each of our items actually is. So it'll automatically, know which class to do. All right. Next, for the spawn transform, we are simply going to get our actor transform. Right, so this will return the kind of the world, location, rotation, and scale of our character. Okay, and then it will spawn it at that area or that place. Okay, and don't worry about that for now, because we're really just trying to spawn it at least close to our character, so that when we attach it to our character, which will be the next step, then it won't like have any weird kind of like flying in motion, because it's spawning at some random location. So just making it spawn close to your actor will be good. All right, then for collision handling override, we're just going to say always spawn, ignore collisions. Okay. All right, so we've done that. Now we're going to take this return value and we're going to use it to set our head item. Okay, so we'll get our head item here, say set, and we'll plug this in. Okay. So now that we've set our head item, right, next thing we want to do is we're going to do a cast to BP underscore base armor. Okay, and the reason for this is because this slot, this head slot, we know we want it to be an armor slot, so we're going to cast to an armor slot, and then based on that we can get its armor info and know where to attach it and do some other stuff like that. So that's the reasoning behind this. So I mean, we'll be casting to our base armor for these top 5 here and the amulet, whereas for the primary, right and left hands and all that, or at least for these 2 primaries right here, you'll cast to a weapon. Okay. So we've done that. Now next what we'll do is we want to drag off of BP base armor and get the armor info. Alright, so we made this a while back, and basically from here we are going to break the armor info, and we're going to untick damage rating because we don't need it, but we do need this attach point because that will help us determine which socket to attach it to. So basically we will take this and drag off, and what we're going to say is we want to attach to component. So we'll do this, attach to component right here. And basically what this does is it takes in something that we want to attach, and then it has a parent that we attach that something to. Okay, so thing that we want to attach will be our the item that we're bringing in here. Okay, I'm just going to add a reroute node because I like to. And now the parent, right? The parent that we're going to attach to is going to be our character. So this dude right here. So it's going to be our mesh. Now keep in mind this is a skeletal mesh. So on it we can have different sockets and stuff. But anyways, we'll just go ahead and get the mesh, plug it into parent, and then we'll take our attach point here and plug it into socket name. So it's going to attach this item to the attach point in that socket name. So basically, in a little while, we're going to have to go into our our character skeleton basically, and add these sockets that will correspond to the attach points. All right. Next, for the location rule, we're just going to say snap to target for all of these because that will snap the object to the socket. All right, so we've done that. Now all we need to do is drag off way out here, and we're just going to say set actor enable collision. We're going to set it to false. Okay, so we're not going to have any collision on our object because we don't want it causing any weird collision-y kind of things that can happen. Because I know one time when I was experimenting with this and didn't turn off the collision, it would just kind of send my character flying into space because every time I tried to move, he would react weird and just go flying. So make sure you disable the collision like that. Okay, so now that's the is valid part, or is not valid. So now what if it is valid? Well, if it is valid, we're simply going to take our head item, so get it, and we're going to say destroy actor. And that's all we're going to do. We're just going to destroy it, and then once we've destroyed it, we are going to spawn the new one. Okay, so this is basically just checking if we already have an item equipped, essentially. Okay, so we'll take our head slot, plug that in here, and there you go. So that's everything that we need to do, right, for all the other ones. So just to kind of show you the next one, we'll take all of this here, this whole chunk, and we will copy paste, put it down there. Okay, kind of slide it up a little bit. Probably going to need a lot of space here, so I'll just move it. But basically, now for this one will be for the torso, right? So we'll take our torso pin, plug it into this is valid. And now since all of these, these head items, torso items, etc. are all of the same type, we can actually just right click, go to replace variable with, and select torso item, and it will replace it. So we'll do that with all the other head item parts. So the set here will replace. Okay, and that's actually all you need to do. So we'll just do it again. Make sure you get everything. Copy paste. Make sure there's no really overlapping too much, and then just replace it with the next one. So the next one is going to be our arms item. Okay, replace with arms item. Replace with arms item. Okay, and then plug in arms. Alright, so I'll let you guys do the next two, and then we'll come back for the other weapons. Alright, so we're back, and all I did here, is just plug in the last couple, okay, and changed their, corresponding item variables here to, whichever ones they needed to be, so legs, feet, and then just make sure you plug in this class node to all of your spawn actors, okay? So that's all good. So next, let's look at doing the weapons. All right, so we can take this same kind of setup here, okay, and again copy paste it. All right, and this time though, instead of casting to a weapon or an armor, we're going to cast to a weapon. Okay, so first we'll just change these variables here. So primary right hand. Replace this with primary right hand. You can just adjust. Okay, we'll hook up the class here really quick. Alright, and change this one. Alright, there we go. So we've got that done. So let's go ahead now and we'll change what we're casting to. Oops, I did the wrong thing. That's my bad. Okay, so we'll change what we're casting to, and basically we'll just hit delete here, and we'll delete this. And we actually have to delete these reroute nodes really quick. And instead we're going to cast to BP underscore base weapon. Oops. Base weapon. Right, now on our base weapon, right, we have weapon info, similar to the armor info. So we'll say get weapon info. And then we will break it. Now we have a lot more things on here than we did before. So what we'll do is we'll just untick all of these except for the slots that we need. So in this case, we're going to need the primary right hand slot here. Oops, don't untick that one, untick the others. Okay, and then we'll just plug that in. Okay, and then we'll plug in the same thing here. Plug this into target, and then plug this into the set actor enable collision to false. Alright, and I'll just add reroute nodes and plug that in. There we go. So everything should be golden now for the first weapon. Okay, make sure it's all right hand. Okay, because it is the right hand one. Alright, next we'll go ahead and take all this and duplicate it again. Copy and paste, whatever. Okay, now this time, after we change these, so we'll change them really quick. We'll say primary left hand, primary left hand, primary left hand. But this time, right, we're going to change its attach point here in the pin options to the left hand. Okay, so that's all you're going to do that's different. Alright, so go ahead and do the last two and just make sure that you change up the next two. You just would select secondary right hand and secondary left hand. You should be good to go. Alright, see you in a sec. Alright, so we're back, and you should now have all these plugged in, right? Your primary left and right and everything. And so now one thing I wanted to point out here, just if you are going to have different kind of different setups, right? There's just some differences that you can have. So let's say you're going for kind of a system where you can allow for dual wielding and stuff like that. Then we're taking our left hand here and we're casting to the base weapon. Okay, so we're assuming that whatever we put in our left hand is going to be of the type base weapon. Okay. Now, if you have like a shield, right, then obviously that's not a weapon. So what you might want to do then is either A, change the shield to be a child of base weapon, all right, and then just kind of do a very similar thing here, or B, if off of cast failed, right, it could be a then you could just cast to BP base armor, and then that assumes that it is a shield then, and then attach it, create a separate attach based on that. So those are just two options of what you could do. I think for us, what we'll do is I'll just demonstrate that really quick. Okay, so I'm going to take all this, okay, and just kind of move it down, just so we can see how it works. So what you do, right, if you're wanting to keep your shields as a base armor rather than a base weapon, you would take cast failed and say cast to cast to BP underscore base armor. Okay, so when the it'll realize, hey, the weapon that we just tried, or the equipment that we just tried to add wasn't a weapon, so we'll check, was it an armor, right? And if it was an armor, then we'll get the armor info, we'll break it, and we'll take only the attached point. Alright, let's create a little separation here. Alright, just going to move this. Alright, and basically we're just going to repeat this part except for this guy. Okay, so I might need to move this down even more. Alright, so it might look like it's getting a little complicated, but don't worry, it's really not that much different. Okay, so we'll just take this little chunk here. Okay, copy paste that, and we'll plug this in, and then plug this in. Okay, so you should have something looking like that now. So there's that. You plug that in like so, and now if you're trying to attach something to the primary left-hand slot and it's not a weapon, right, then it will cast to check if it's an armor, and then if it's an armor, then it'll attach that. Okay, but like I said, the other option that you have is probably to just make a shield a child of base weapon, and then it'll be easier that way. But okay, it's all up to you. So there's just showing how to do it. So we'll stick with this method. All right, and so then we're just going to repeat the same thing for the secondary left-hand item. And now a note on the secondary left-hand item. All right, so take this really quick, copy and paste it. But yeah, a note on the secondary items. Right, that's assuming that, or that's just for you guys if you want to set up some kind of weapon switching behavior. And maybe we'll go over that in the future, but for right now I think we'll just stick with one weapon. It's confusing enough as it is. Alright, so we've got that now. Alright, so we just want to make sure that we plug in, oops, not that one, but, oops, yes, this to the object. Okay, and now everything should be good to go. Okay, now lastly, right, last thing that we need to do is just do the amulet. Okay, and our amulet is going to be of type base armor. So let's just go find one of the base armors, way up here, I guess. That's easiest. And we'll copy and paste it down here. Okay. Just kind of move that up a little bit, whatever. Alright, and then we'll take the pin, drag it all the way back up, connect it to amulet. Alright, and then we'll change the type here again to amulet type. Alright, so I realize this is a lot of work, a lot of stuff that we're doing, but it's not super simple, I guess. So it kind of requires some setup. Now, another thing, you could probably collapse each of these little parts here to a function, and then pass in the correct parameters and whatnot. But I just opted not to, just to kind of show you guys everything. So yeah, the last thing here, just take the class, plug it in, and we should be good to go. Right? We should now have the ability to attach weapons. Okay. So now what we need to do is we need to take our guy, right, go find his mesh here, his skeletal mesh, and we need to open it up because we need to add the actual socket, the actual sockets that our items will go to. Okay, so let's look at the right hand first. So we'll go find the right hand in the hierarchy. We'll right click and add a socket, and we'll call this I guess primary right hand. Okay, so there's that. And so now that we've added it, we can right click and say add a preview asset. So we'll go with the curved sword. And the reason for this is because it has a curve, so it will help us determine what is kind of the correct forward sort of rotation to have. Like if you were to use an object that's symmetric, it would be a little harder to tell. But basically we've added it, and now it's like sticking through his arm. So we're just going to take the socket, and we're going to rotate everything just so it works out nice. So I'm just going to rotate it down this way, maybe like this. Okay, I realize this part's probably going to be a little boring. I'll set it to relative just because it's easier to rotate things in relative, and then I'll allow for free movement by unticking those two. Okay, so we'll move it down into his hand, sort of. Okay, so there it is in his hand, and that's kind of where it'll attach, right? So now here's a very important thing. Once you start kind of making your own weapons, right, try to make sure that any assets that you make that are kind of the same type, try to make sure that they all have the same, or at least relatively the same kind of pivot point, because that will make it so much easier for you to add things to sockets like this, because you won't have to create an individual socket for each piece. You'll just be able to create one socket and then attach all of your items to that socket with no worries, because they all have the same kind of origin. So I mean, just to show this, right, I'll delete this curved sword and we'll add a different weapon. So let's add the let's try this spiked club. So if we add this, you see it shows up in the same kind of position, and it's nicely in his hand, and that's great, right? That's kind of what we want. So yeah, when you're making your assets, try to make sure that their origins or their pivot points are all in the same kind of area. All right. So now I'll just test one more. Try the dagger, just because it's really small, and we see that that works out well too. Okay. So we've got the primary right hand. Now let's check out the primary left hand. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll go find the hand L, right click, add a socket. We'll call this primary left hand. All right, now this one might be a little trickier because if we're going to add shields, it might be a little different. Like you might have to have two sockets here, one for weapons and one for kind of the shields. But we'll see how it works. So I'm going to add a preview here. I'm going to add the curved sword again. Oops. Curved sword. There it is. It's looking, that might be kind of cool actually. But that's something you can play with. Anyways, we'll rotate it. Rotate it like so. Kind of try to fit it into his hand again. Okay. And if you notice like the flying around is too much for you, just go ahead and change down the camera speed, and that'll allow you to kind of have better control coming in here. Alright. That's looking pretty good. Maybe we'll slide it back a little bit. But that should be alright, and it should be okay for all of our other weapons because they all have the same origins. Alright, so we'll just delete that. Now let's check out how the shields look. So we'll type, we're not going to use the round shield because that doesn't really help in determining direction so much. Instead, we're going to use the, what is it? Let me see. The pent shield? I called it a pent shield. It's supposed to be a kite shield, but I called it pent because like pentagon. I don't know what I was thinking. Alright, so you see that it's kind of a little weird, right? I mean, it's like, it's positioned all right, but it's aiming kind of downward, right, and not sort of sideways. So it'd probably be best to, create a separate socket for for shields. Okay, so we'll take the left hand, right click, add a socket that we'll call, I guess, just shield. We'll just call it primary shield. Okay, and now you know, we'll only have this on the left hand because I don't know any games really that even have one on the right hand, you know, for carrying shields, but feel free to go for it if you want to. So we'll add that shield again, the pent shield, and now we can kind of rotate it to kind of try to, I don't know, get it to work a little better for us. It's kind of sticking through his arm a little bit, so we'll pull it up, maybe angle it. Alright, and that might be okay. Yeah, it might be alright. It's not perfect, of course, but it should be alright. Okay, so there we go. We've got our shield in place. So that's our primary shield socket. And now, if you want, you know, you can add the secondary ones. I would just say, you know, go to like the spine, right, and add those onto the back. But we will also, you know, kind of try to add the head and torso ones right now. So let's go find, we'll do the head first. So we'll find the head. Let's right click, add a socket, and we will call this head slot, right? Because you can't call it head because the bone is already named head, so it won't work. So we'll add a preview socket or a preview thing, and we'll call it, this will be our helmet. So both of these helmets, right, they have the same pivot points again, so we only need to do one of them. And as you can see, it's sticking through his head. So I don't know what I was doing when I made this then. But we'll rotate it. And I'm actually going to snap rotation again, just so we can get a better snapping. Okay. So that's good. Kind of move it down a little bit onto his head. Maybe a little tilt forward. But just basically make sure it doesn't like, it's not like protruding through his head anywhere weird. And you should be good. Can we lower it, maybe? That looks alright. Okay, so now the other one will also work very similarly, right? It'll fit in perfectly. So we can delete that now. So we just have the head slot. Then we'll go to our spine, I guess, I don't know, our spine 1 maybe, or, you know, you can choose really any of the spine points here, and just add a socket for the torso. So I'm going to go with spine 2. I'm going to add a socket that we'll call torso slot. Okay, and we'll right click again, add a preview asset, and this will be our breastplate. So we'll add that. Okay, we'll take the torso, and we will rotate this to 90. And I guess I put its pivot down there near the bottom. That would probably not a bad idea to do that, but you know, you do whatever works for you. So we're going to rotate this forward now, and then rotate it down, or bring it down, kind of try to get it to fit on his body all right. Now one thing that you should note, you know, this is a static mesh, okay, and so if you're wanting to do something like skeletal meshes that will actually follow his animation, you know, his skeleton's animation better, you'll have to, you know, create a skeletal mesh for that, obviously, and I can show that in a separate tutorial, but again, for brevity's sake, we're just going to stick with this. Okay, so we've got that. That's awesome. Next thing that we're going to do is go back to our content browser. Let's just save everything. And we want to go into our interactables and into our, you know, weapons here, and we're going to, you know, pick, we're going to set their slots. Okay, so since they all have the same origin, okay, because of the way that the models have been created, we can just go to the base weapon here and go to the weapon info, and we can set all of these names for all of them. Okay, so this one will be, you know, primary right. Alright, so we've got our primary right hand. Alright, now we'll do the left hand. And a quick little tip, if you don't want to, like, you know, type in everything, because that can be annoying, you can go back to your, you know, your character's skeleton, right, and click on the socket and then take its name and just copy it, and then go back and paste it just like that. So that's all we're going to do for now. We're not, you know, we don't have a secondary right or left hand set up, so we'll just leave that empty for now. Now we'll go back to the content browser, and let's just, you know, hit save all to save all the weapons now. All right, and we'll go to our
interactables, and armor this time. And in each one of these, we're going to set its attach point. So we'll open up the BP, breastplate here, click the armor info, and now we need the attach point. So again, we can go to our skeleton, find the torso slot, just copy its name, and then paste it. Super helpful, I think. Compile and save that. We'll go to the helmet, do the same kind of thing. So go to the skeleton, again, find the head slot, copy it, and paste it. Just like that. Compile and save again. Okay, and then the last one, the shield. So the shield is a little different, right? The shield is called primary shield. So we'll find it. It's still the same process, but it's just how it gets attached, right? It gets attached a little different. All right, so just notice again that the item slot here is primary left hand. If we go back to the helmet, we'll see that it's the head slot. The breastplate is the torso slot, and of course the weapon here is this is the base weapon, so just ignore that. But we can now close this. Okay, so we've got our attaching kind of set up. Okay, so let's test this out. So if we hit play, we can go ahead and pick up one of these. So we pick up our sword here. If I hit I, right, you see here it is, it shows up. Now if I click it, it will attach itself to its correct slot, or its its socket, and if you hit E, it shows up there as well. And then you can pick up other ones, and the way we set it up, right, if we are currently, if we have a weapon currently, then when we choose another one that's of the same slot, it will remove the previous one and then insert itself. So if I click it, you see it switches out, right, and also switch the inventory, but the only thing we don't have, right, is the unattaching yet. Okay, so when we unattach, it's supposed to be unattached, but it's still there. So we'll do that next. So we'll go ahead and go into our character, and let's go to unattach equipment. And we're going to do a very similar thing to the attach equipment, except okay, so we'll break this F item info, and we're going to get rid of everything here except for the slot again. Then we'll do a switch on the slot. Okay, and click the drop down, and basically for each one of these, we're just going to destroy the associated item. Okay, so for the head, we'll get it and say destroy actor. Okay, and then plug in head like so. Oops. So we'll do that again for the the torso. Plug everything in. You can do that again for the arms, legs, and basically that's all you're going to do all the way down. Okay, so let me plug that in. Alright, so go ahead and do the last couple, and I'll see you in a sec. Alright, so you should have this now. Alright, so basically depending on whatever item slot it is, it will just remove, it'll destroy that that slot basically, or the item in that slot. Okay, so if we go back and just check out how everything's working again, right, when we use an item, it removes it from the inventory, okay, because we're using it in the inventory. And then depending on its item type, right, it'll do something. So for a weapon or armor, it will, update the associated slot, and then it will attach it to our character. And then when we unuse it, and this is being, this unuse gets called from the equipment, we remove it from the equipment, add it back to the inventory, we refresh the equipment, and then we unattach the weapon from our character. Okay, so let's go ahead and just test it out again. If we hit play, now I hit F, I picked one up, we get our inventory and equipment open. Now if I add it, there it is, and then if I click it from here, it should remove it. And there we go. So you can see our system's working, and that's fantastic. And so now in the next video, we'll actually look at just updating our live character preview here to match the stuff that our character has. So with that, thank you for watching. I hope you liked the video, and if you want to see more, like or subscribe, and we will see you in the next one.